Hi, friends. For about the last 10 or 12 years, I have been on a journey of intentionally moving towards more self compassion and being kinder to myself. And along the way, I have learned a lot of things, many of which I think package up into useful stories that might, I hope, help you or people around you. I've learned a lot from the people around me when they've talked about experiences they've had that then I can use to inform my experience and my learning of life and about myself. And so my hope is that this can do something similar for you. Today, in particular, I want to talk about my journey towards learning to value myself more in romantic relationships. I spent a long time, many years, dating people who didn't value me as a person. And it took me a long time to see and understand that I was contributing to that dynamic, that they didn't value me in part because I didn't value me. I thought that I did, and I, in so many ways, undermined myself. I can look back now and see how I was willing to accept crumbs and sort of thought that that was all that I could really expect in a romantic relationship. And so that's all I did expect in a romantic relationship. And that meant that I spent a lot of time dating people who weren't kind to me and didn't value me and didn't treat me in the way that I would want someone to treat someone I love. So how did this happen? It's happened to so many people. I don't feel like I'm alone. In fact, I think that learning to value ourselves is a journey that we're all on in our lives. So throughout our childhoods and our whole lives, of course, we are exposed to society's ideas about what makes a valuable person and what makes a person worthwhile. These ideas come from the people around us, they come from the media, advertising, entertainment, all over the place. And with those messages are pieces of information about who are the people who are valuable and what makes them valuable. And because our society has a very narrow view of what a valuable person looks like or who they are or what they do, no matter who you are, in these popular culture images of valuable people, you'll be getting information about ways that you're wrong. Because even if you're quite a wonderful person, there will always be more people around you who are wonderful in different ways. And so the narrowing of the field really narrows the field for all of us and gives us a lot of information about our own imperfections and pieces of wrongness. For me, the two that I have grappled with the most are being fat and being a woman. You probably have other experiences. I know that people can grapple with this around the color of their skin or how much money they or their families have. Gender and belonging and being in a body that you belong in at all. All of these are things that can feel very personally wrong and sort of inherently wrong about us. And along the way, we learn from society that we're not valuable. We might learn from the people around us that we're not valuable, and we take those messages in without even realizing it. So if in my 20s and 30s you had asked me if I valued myself, I would have said yes, because I hadn't yet come to see the ways that I didn't and that I was always undermining myself. And that meant that in romantic relationships, I was willing to accept less than I wish that I had. In these relationships, I could sort of distantly see that I was accepting treatment that I didn't think that I should, and that I probably would talk to a friend about if I saw them in a relationship that looked similar. And it was this curious sort of vicious cycle because I was accepting treatment that I didn't think that I should. And so then that became something that I got down on myself about. And the more down on myself I was, the more I was willing to accept this treatment that I didn't like and could feel was hurting me. even when friends and family would raise concerns to me about these relationships and whether I was really getting what I wanted or deserved in them, I would sort of double down on the relationship, defensively pushing them away, in part because they were raising concerns that I felt but wasn't willing to or able to engage with in myself at that time. So it was this vicious cycle that was difficult to break out of, and moving in the direction of greater self-compassion and greater kindness is the thing that really made the difference for me. Because suddenly, instead of every time something happened that I didn't like but that I was accepting, me getting down on myself and more or less calling myself names that then like gave me this internal confirmation that that kind of treatment was what I deserved and what was appropriate for me, I could start to soften that reaction. So instead of being hard on myself, I got at least a little bit softer. And in being softer, I started to carve a new path and expand the circle. And that then gave me more opportunities to keep asking questions and to keep being soft. I've spoken in a past video about the importance of curiosity when we're dealing with moments of self-judgment, and that certainly was true for me here in the process of moving towards valuing myself more. Every time we can shift our self-talk from judgment to compassion, it moves us in the direction of being able to expand our hearts and expand our capacity to love both ourselves and ultimately the people around us too. I know we all have parts of ourselves that we struggle with, parts of ourselves that we don't like very much, even parts of ourselves where we experience self-loathing and real feelings of self-disgust. This is, I'm sorry to say, a very human experience, but I'm happy to say that moving in the direction of curiosity, compassion, kindness, and generally being softer and more loving with ourselves is always a way to move ourselves in the direction of expanding that in many ways across our whole lives. So, when you're getting down on yourself, if you can just take a moment to take a breath and say, what's going on for myself here? What's going on that's making me feel this way or behave this way, without pointing a finger, without getting hard or being judgmental, but just being curious, the way you would with a friend or someone else that you love. Because ultimately, my hope is that you will find that you are someone that you love too.